We're excited to delve into this next chat, the offering as well, because this year's edition of Africa's most dynamic decor and design showcase, it brings people together, ideas and innovation that really reflect how we live, how we build, and also imagine tomorrow. At its core, this is a human story that intersects with business, with culture, with entrepreneurship and identity. It's full of rising creative entrepreneurs, cross-border collaborations and designers really pushing conversations around sustainability and heritage and innovation all into the mainstream. But to chat a little bit more about what we can expect for the 2025 edition, here in studio we're joined by Decorex Africa Executive Creative Directors Alan Hayward and Garreth van Niekerk. Good morning to the both of you.
Morning.
Welcome.
It's so good to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you and obviously just delve into what the offering is for 2025. It's about sustainability, it's about heritage and identity, infusing materials that are obviously going to also just ensure that we have longevity for the long term. But it's also about creativity.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about this edition and why you're so excited.
Every year Decorex is just this coming together
Yes.
of the world's best creative and Africa's best creatives. And this year in particular, like you say, we're focusing on such an interesting sort of textural milieu of designers, craftspeople, interesting thinkers. The theme for this year is the future of living. And so we're kind of trying to ask ourselves, if the future had to be made by the designers, what it could look like. What would the future look like in 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, if it was left to our designers? So
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting sort of weekend to explore those thoughts yourself as well.
And it's also about cultural, representation as well. There's cross-border collaboration. So there is a plethora of vantage points and lenses through which, is going to be explored. Do you want to expand a little bit more about the magic that's on offer through that?
Well, we've tried to do a big focus on Africa this year. So we've had 2 editions of Decorex this year, Decorex Cape Town, Decorex Joburg.
Okay.
We featured a Egyptian brand called Reform Studios. They are a textile-based studio and they make waste products into the most incredible fabrics. So we featured them in Cape Town, and in Joburg we have an incredible designer. He's originally from Nigeria, but he lives in Switzerland now, Charles Job. And Charles Job is a lecturer and a product designer, and he's been coming to give talks to really talk about sustainability and kind of putting products together simply. And as a lecturer and a university professor, he's really done some incredible talks. And actually we have our first talk with him, I think it's at 3 o'clock today.
Okay.
On the Future Talks program.
Okay.
And that will be talking about collaboration in Africa and how important it is for not only designers to collaborate, but for there to be cross-collaboration between South Africa and other African countries to create a really vibrant design scene and a really industrial design scene.
I mean, if you're looking at the future, AI is the future, digital technology is the future, so 3D printing, and I mean, all of that comes to the fore. How is that incorporated this year as well? If we're even projecting, how do we begin to reimagine what's possible through that?
Totally. I mean, I think the 3D printing is definitely like the first thing that comes to mind. We've got the most amazing young toy maker. His name's Kwabe. And he was an illustrator, and I think the amazing thing about 3D printing is that it's something you can put on your desk and you draw something and then suddenly it starts printing this crazy thing. And you can kind of see in that picture behind you, but he's kind of transforming the language of his own thoughts and using a way that is not expensive, it's simple, and the audiences just absolutely love the sort of opportunity for small makers to industrialize, like Alan says, without giant machines and without those sort of things. So we're really excited about the concept that it's possible for really small businesses to start thinking big using the smallest means.
I actually wanted to look at the aspect of economic growth for African cities, given job creation, the unemployment, but even just infusing youth, the energy, that vibrancy, and that's what you need when you reimagine what's coming through. Tell us a little more about that relationship.
So Decorex, we have 2 parts to Decorex. We have the consumer part where we obviously welcome, almost 50,000 guests on a weekend. So that's incredible to, really show the public what we're doing. But on the other side, Decorex is really a coming together of people in the trade. So as you say, small businesses that are starting out with their designs, meeting bigger businesses. And what we try and do is facilitate a lot of collaborations. So, big furniture brands with kind of, young pattern makers and, big rug brands with, different hand weaving things. So the idea is really to be a melting pot so that every year Decorex becomes stronger and stronger with new collaborations, with getting younger people with fresh ideas to come and reimagine all things that established factories have been doing. And really that's how we see our industry growing and also becoming more vibrant and diverse.
What are the biggest challenges, though, that still pervade the space? I mean, even if we look at our continent, you've got the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. You've got initiatives that aim to foster, these relationships and collaborations, but how it's often translated isn't, always as viable, at least at this juncture. What has been your experience? How do you also aim to improve a little bit further, to add to agency?
Totally. I mean, I think we've now discovered it for the first time ourselves, trying to bring designers' work from across the continent to here. And the shipping thing is hell, but also just, I suppose, trying to convince governments across Africa that these industries can really, it starts small, but it can become it can change everything for not just the people who make it, but for the manufacturers. So I think a big thing that we're kind of seeing is the difference and the big jump between how you go from a designer to being a designer manufacturer. So a big part of this Designer of the Year that we have here is thinking about how you can flat pack furniture. So that instead of having to transport these giant tables or chairs, you can now put something in a box, send it quite easily from, say, Nigeria to South Africa. And so it's why we're bringing these amazing people over to start helping designers, start thinking about, if I want to make a bag or I want to make a leather couch, how can I work with Morocco's best leather artisans? Instead of having to try and kind of, I suppose, work it out yourself, it's really establishing these networks that are so incredible. These crafts go back hundreds of years. And it's only going to make us better and better if we can start working together and cross-collaborating.
Yeah. We've seen mass production of so many items, and I wonder how that's influenced, what's been able to be unearthed, especially from smaller players. Is there a need to go back to basics and, really revere artisans and that uniqueness that comes through? Alan, anything on that front, even if we look at the trends that are emerging or re-emerging again? Is it fair to ask you?
Yes,
is that okay?
Totally. Absolutely. So, I mean, for us, it's kind of twofold. Obviously, you want big industrialization in Africa because we want, people to be getting cheap goods and we want people to be, sending those goods all around Africa. We want that. But the thing is, what is incredible about handmade things and our project Handmade Africa, Capitec Handmade Africa, is a celebration of people taking crafts that are traditionally in their culture, in African culture, which is very specific to the tiniest regions. There's a very specific difference between KwaZulu-Natal and Johannesburg or Cape Town or Morocco or somewhere else.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is that people, especially as a huge trend now, people are going back to their cultural roots and being interested in. I think we are past minimalism as a whole idea. People want goods that reflect their culture, reflect their travels, reflect their personality, and that is where Africa is best placed to tell our stories, to tell the things that makes us unique and interesting, and obviously show the craft that is, in all sorts of areas, unbelievable.
And the many conversations that will be sparked. Just remind us, it's obviously taking place this weekend, how people get tickets and contact you as well.
It's at the Sandton Convention Centre. Tickets are available at decorex.co.za, but also available at the door. I think it's 170 Rand at the door, 160 Rand online. And please just come and explore. I think the whole idea is to be as inspired as possible. And so we want everybody from homemakers to young designers to join us for the weekend and sit for a couple of the talks and shop. There's amazing shopping that we've brought in this year where you can buy beautiful things from necklaces to blankets, and we're so excited.
Alan and Garreth, thank you this morning for joining us. Of course, sharing some of the insights on the dynamic world of African design, what you can expect at Decorex Africa 2025, the experience, the latest trends, and of course, all the innovations happening firsthand. We'll leave that conversation there. In fact, we've also come to the end of the show. Thanks for tuning in. That wraps up the Saturday edition. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. But from myself, Liesl Wilson, and the crew, it has been an absolute pleasure. Until next time, take care. It's goodbye for now.